What if I told you that no event, no insult, no loss, no betrayal, nothing in this world actually has the power to bother you unless you give it permission? That might sound radical, even unrealistic. But that's exactly what Epictetus, the enslaved man who became one of the greatest Stoic philosophers in history, believed. And not only did he believe it, he lived it. He taught that the key to ultimate freedom is this: recognizing that the only thing truly within your control is your own mind. Everything else, your body, your reputation, your possessions, your relationships, is outside of you. It's not yours, it's borrowed. And because of that, it has no rightful claim on your peace. This idea is foreign to most of us. We are taught from birth to react, to be offended, to take things personally. We're taught that our emotional state is a reflection of what others do to us. If someone disrespects us, we feel angry. If someone betrays us, we feel broken. If we lose money, we feel like failures. But Epictetus would say, you are not disturbed by things, but by your judgment of those things. And that flips the entire game, because it means that the power you think is out there in your job, your status, your relationships, is actually right here, between your ears.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Let me ask you something. What currently bothers you that you believe is outside your control? Is it something someone said, something that didn't go your way, but a fear of something that might happen? Now ask yourself, what if none of that had the power to touch my peace unless I let it? That's the Stoic superpower. And it's not passive. It's not denial. It's radical, active clarity. It's choosing what to care about and what to release with precision. Most people live like emotional sponges, soaking up everything. But Epictetus invites us to live like filters, to separate what's real from what's noise, what's essential from what's ego. And when you master that distinction, life doesn't get easier, but it becomes yours. You see, Epictetus wasn't a king or a warrior. He was born into slavery. He had no wealth, no status, no comfort. And yet, he said he was free. Why? Because even when they chained his body, they couldn't chain his mind. He once told a Roman official who threatened to break his leg, "Go ahead. But even if you break my body, you cannot touch my will." That's not just courage, that's philosophical fire. And it forces us to ask, what chains are we wearing that are entirely mental? What if the things we say control us? Anxiety, anger, resentment are just habits of thought we've never challenged. Let's go deeper. Imagine this: you're walking in the street and someone bumps into you and yells, "Watch where you're going, idiot." Your heart races. You feel disrespected. You want to yell back. Why? Epictetus would say it's not the insult that caused your anger. It's your interpretation of the insult. You believed that their words had the power to define you. But what if you didn't? What if you trained yourself to pause and say, "That's just noise. That's their judgment, not mine. It's not truth." Suddenly, what felt like an emotional explosion becomes a moment of sovereignty. You don't react. You respond. You choose. And that choice is everything. Because here's the reality: in every situation, there are two parts: what happens and how you interpret what happens. And only one of those is yours to control. This is the Stoic divide, the ancient mental firewall. And most people never install it. They live in reaction mode. Every insult becomes personal. Every delay becomes a reason for panic. Every failure becomes a wound to their identity. But what if you refuse to let external events write your internal script? What if you could look at everything loss, failure, judgment and say, this may be happening, but it doesn't own me? That's not detachment. It's discipline. It's waking up every day and practicing the art of choosing your response. Because let's be honest, how much of your life have you given away to things that didn't deserve your energy? How many arguments lived in your head long after the other person forgot what they said? How many nights did you lose sleep over things you couldn't change? And how many moments of peace have you postponed because you were waiting for the world to behave the way you think it should? Epictetus would challenge you to flip the script. Instead of saying, I'll feel peace when the world cooperates, he would say, feel peace now because the world will never fully cooperate. That's the point. Reality isn't here to please you. It's here to shape you. And the more you resist it, the more you suffer. But when you align with it, when you focus only on what's within your control, then suffering becomes optional. Let's test this. Think of something right now that you're struggling with. Maybe it's uncertainty about the future. Maybe it's a relationship that isn't working. Maybe it's a sense of inadequacy. Now ask yourself, what part of this is truly mine to control? Not theoretically, but practically. Can you control the outcome? Probably not. Can you control the other person? Definitely not. But can you control your mindset, your focus, your response? Absolutely. And that's where your attention should go. Because every moment you spend worrying about what you can't control is a moment you've stolen from your own power. This isn't escapism. This is engagement at the highest level. When you stop trying to micromanage the universe, you reclaim energy to master yourself. That's the stoic upgrade. And it's not just for philosophers. It's for you right now, in the middle of your messy, unpredictable, modern life. Because nothing has changed, really. The world is still chaotic. People are still irrational. Events are still unfair. But you can change. You can become the kind of person who walks through fire and says, "This will not define me." You can become the kind of person who loses everything and still says, "I am not lost." You can become the kind of person who is so grounded in internal clarity that nothing, no insult, no loss, no failure can shake your peace. Let me ask you the most important question so far. What would your life look like if nothing could bother you unless you allowed it to? If every emotion was a choice and not a reaction? If every crisis was an opportunity to practice strength, not a trigger for collapse? That's the Stoic ideal. And it's not just a dream. It's a practice, one decision at a time, one moment at a time, one breath at a time. And here's the secret most people never realize. True freedom doesn't come from controlling your circumstances. It comes from no longer needing to. When you stop expecting the world to behave, when you stop outsourcing your peace to outcomes, when you stop making your happiness conditional, you become unstoppable. Because now your center is internal. Your strength is self-generated, and no one can take that away from you. That's why Epictetus said, "Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it does happen, and your life will be serene." That's not passivity. That's power. That's the kind of power that you carry with you into every situation, every relationship, every storm. And when you live that way, you stop being controlled by external chaos. You become the calm in the chaos, in the eye of the hurricane. The presence that changes the room not because you're trying to, but because you've mastered the one thing that matters most, your own mind. There's a concept Epictetus and his stoic successors return to again and again: the inner citadel. It's not a place, but a state of being. A fortress that exists within you, built not from stone but from discipline, reason and clarity. But it is the only true refuge in a world that shifts like sand, where fortunes rise and fall, where people betray, where illness strikes without warning, and where death is the only certainty. Epictetus didn't teach that we should run from this reality. He taught that we should train for it, that we should build our lives on what can't be taken. And what can't be taken? Only this: your ability to choose your response, your capacity to remain aligned with virtue no matter what storms rage outside. That's the core of Stoicism: not to be indifferent, but to be invulnerable in the right way, and to care deeply, but only about what is truly yours to command. And here's where the modern world gets it wrong. We've been taught to make our identity out of outcomes. We say, I am my success, I am my relationships, I am my reputation. But what happens when those things fall apart? If your self-worth is tied to your job, who are you when you lose it? If your peace is tied to someone else's opinion, what happens when they change their mind? Suddenly, your entire life becomes a hostage negotiation with forces that don't care about your inner peace. You become reactive, anxious, fragile. But Epictetus would say, no man is free who is not master of himself. And that is the test of the inner citadel, not when things are calm, but when everything collapses. When the plan fails, when the people leave, when the world says no, can you still say yes to your principles, to your clarity, to your unwavering sense of what matters? Let's be brutally honest. Most of us are not living from our center. We're living from our circumstances. We wake up and immediately outsource our mood to the news, to our phone, to someone else's approval. We don't own our day, we act to it. And every time we do that, we move further away from our citadel. We become citizens of external chaos instead of sovereigns of internal peace. But Epictetus didn't have the luxury of waiting for peace. He was born a slave, physically abused, stripped of freedom in every way society defines it. And yet, he was freer than most of us will ever be. Because he discovered something most people never even look for. The power to govern your mind is the only freedom that truly matters. Once you have that, no one can imprison you. Once you have that, you become untouchable, not because the world stops hurting you, but because it can no longer define you. So what does this look like in real life? It means the next time someone disrespects you, instead of reacting with anger or retreating into self-doubt, you pause and ask, is this within my control? If not, let it go. If it is, act not from emotion but from principle. It means the next time you fail because you don't collapse into shame, but instead say, this is an opportunity to practice resilience. This is training. Every difficulty becomes the gym for your soul. Every insult becomes a test of your discipline. Every loss becomes a chance to return to what can't be lost, your character, That's how the inner citadel is built, not through theory, but through practice, and through facing life not as a victim, but as a participant in a sacred training ground for the self. But let's go even deeper. Epictetus didn't just say we should endure suffering. He said we should embrace it, not because it feels good, but because it reveals who we are. He believed that adversity is the great clarifier. When things fall apart, the masks drop, and the illusions burn away, and what's left is the truth. So ask yourself, who are you when no one is watching, when nothing is working, when everything you thought you needed is gone? That's your actual self, not the one you perform, but the one you revert to under pressure. And the Stoic path is about shaping that version of you. Not the version the world applauds, but the one who remains upright when the applause stops. That's the version who can't be bought, can't be broken, can't be bent by circumstance. And that's the version you want to become, not just for your own peace, but because that version of you is what the world desperately needs. We live in a time of emotional volatility. People are outraged by everything. We confuse outrage with action. We think being bothered is a sign of intelligence. But Epictetus would challenge that. He would say, if you are disturbed, it is not the thing itself that disturbs you, but your opinion about it. In other words, being bothered is not a virtue. It's a failure of judgment. It is the sign that you are still letting the world dictate your inner state. And until you change that, until you reclaim the authority over your own mind, you will always be a puppet pulled by invisible strings. But once you cut those strings, once you say, I will no longer give my peace away to things beyond my control, then you begin to walk the path of the true Stoic. You begin to live as someone who is not just alive, but awake. Because that's the ultimate goal, not just to survive life's storms, but to remain centered within them, to become the eye of the hurricane, to greet chaos with clarity, to meet betrayal with inner steadiness, and to face death not with fear, but with philosophy. That's not apathy. That's not detachment. That's the deepest form of engagement. It's saying, I am here fully. I accept this moment completely. And I will act not from panic, but from principle. That is the Stoic ideal. That is the inner citadel. And once you touch it, once you taste that kind of freedom, you will never again be satisfied with being emotionally enslaved to the world around you. So here's the final challenge. What if the next time something bothered you, you didn't react? What if you paused, examined it, and asked, is this worthy of my energy? And then chose peace instead? How would your life change if you stopped being pulled and started being anchored? That is the power Epictetus offers us. Not a life without pain, but a life without unnecessary suffering. Not a life without loss, but a life where loss doesn't steal your soul. And not a life without pressure, but a life where pressure reveals your power. Because in the end, nothing should bother you, not because life is easy, but because you've chosen to master yourself in the face of it. And that kind of mastery, that's the rarest and most valuable treasure in the world. It's not found in fortune, fame, or followers. It's found in the quiet, disciplined mind of a person who has built their citadel from the inside out. And once you've built that, no one, not even fate, can take it from you.